My cousins stole my fiancé, but when their perfect life crumbled, I made sure karma did the rest. I'm 28 and I was engaged to Ron 27 for a year. We met in college. We were friends, but not very close. We started dating after college and had been together for 4 years. Last year we got engaged and had a small ceremony with close family and friends. My aunt was also invited. Since attending my engagement, my aunt was captivated by my ex's charm and kept praising how handsome and wealthy he was. It was unusual because she had never been so affectionate with me before. Her daughter, Lucia 24, is extremely beautiful but as dumb as a rock. My aunt always compared us in every way. I was good at academics, even though she was 4 years younger than me. In school, my aunt compared our grades and commented on how her daughter was better than me. The best part was when she compared Lucia's 8th grade report card with my 12th grade report card and declared that she was better than me. The joke is that Lucia couldn't pass high school. Ron and I were planning our wedding for October because I had to visit the UK for a summer program. Everything was going well between us when I left in June. We talked once a day due to the time difference. 2 weeks after I started, we began to drift apart. I asked him what was going on. He didn't say anything clear, just that he was stressed about work. I thought the distance had affected our feelings, but I didn't take it seriously because it wasn't a new relationship. I planned to resolve the issue after returning. A week before my program ended, he stopped talking to me. I felt so childish wanting to resolve it, but he chose the easiest way out and vanished. I've always had a lot of pride, and though it hurt, I don't chase after anyone. I stayed in my illusionary world, thinking he would come after me. He didn't. Instead, after a while, my aunt showed up at my house with a wedding invitation. I found out he was going to marry my cousin Lucia. What the hell? In the age of emails, she shows up with a printed invitation. She wanted to see my disappointment in person. It was one of the few times I felt completely bewildered. I was in shock, wondering how he could fall in love with my cousin who can barely pay for her meals. But my aunt soon gave me the answer. She said, "I'm so sorry, dear, I understand your pain, but what can we do when people fall out of love? Maybe he couldn't handle the distance. Don't be mad at your cousin. Ron was the one who sought Lucia for coffee because he had nothing else to do after work. You know how beautiful my princess is. You can't blame Ron for falling for her." I looked at her with red, tear-filled eyes. Normally I don't tolerate my aunt and interrupt her, but this time I was so shocked that I couldn't say a word. I just stared at her and accepted her cruel, sweetened insults. She said, "Believe me, dear, I love you as much as I love Lucia." I screamed when she told me about Ron, but he came to my house and politely confessed his deep love for Lucia. You know how humble and sweet he is. My heart melted instantly when he knelt and asked for Lucia's hand like an old-school gentleman. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I imagined Ron doing everything she described. She tried to hug me, but I blocked her. I wiped my tears and composed myself, saying I had something to attend to, and asked her to leave. She said, "If you're thinking of contacting Ron, don't. I blocked you myself. It's not proper for my son-in-law to be in contact with his ex, you know." I told her, "Screw you and your son-in-law. I have much more to do in life than chasing after other people's men." She got up and said, "Don't be discouraged, my dear. I understand it will be difficult for you to find another man at your age and with your looks, but don't worry. There are many divorced men looking for a second chance at love. I'm sure you'll find a man like that." I screamed, "Get out." I deeply regretted losing my composure and giving her the satisfaction of seeing my vulnerability, but it's okay. We all have weak moments in life when we simply can't stand firm. This news was much more painful than Guston. I'm not saying it would have been easy if he had cheated with any other woman, but it would have been much better than this. I would have cut him off and been sure never to see him again. But now who knows, my aunt might show up any time to rub her daughter's prize in my face. Everyone in my friends and family knew about Ron and me. Now I feel stupid for having such a grand engagement. Now that he's marrying Lucia, the story is evident to everyone about what happened in the background. My aunt has been weaving a different story, that Ron found solace in Lucia because I was too stubborn and egocentric. She claims Ron didn't want me to go to the summer program in the UK, yet I went and stopped talking to him. She even said Ron suspected I was involved with someone in the UK. He heard a guy's voice in the background every time he called me and things like that. I haven't been in contact with most of my relatives since I moved out. Even as a teenager I was distant from them because I didn't like their trivial conversations. Therefore it was easier for my aunt to sell her lies. It feels so terrible. I know all this is for the best. I got rid of the cheater. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But you know what? When you're in the middle of the dark phase, it's simply impossible to navigate through it, even though you know everything will be fine after a while. Update 1. Hi, and thanks for cheering me up on my original post. I've been thinking about updating this for a long time. I thought the day I no longer feel anything from my ex, I'll make an update, and here we are today. Indeed, things got better, and there's a cherry on top. Wait for it. That phase was really dark and long. It's not that I haven't been through a breakup before, but this was horrible because he was my fiancé. My mom stayed with me for a week, and it helped having her by my side. However, I felt sick the moment she left. I was with Ron for so many years that every place brought back memories of him. Reason enough to leave the city. I applied for jobs in the UK and got a very promising one in Leeds. Nothing like packing up and leaving. Professional advice from me. If someone is struggling to move on after a difficult past, nothing heals better and faster than a change of scenery. Yes, only if your situation allows it. I understand that not everyone has the opportunity to move so easily. Anyway, moving away made me feel like I was reborn. I was surprised how quickly I managed to get over it. Things took a better turn a few days ago when my mom called and asked if Ron was unemployed. I said yes, he was. I mean, not unemployed, but he quit his job a year ago to pursue his passion for writing. Here's something interesting. Ron wanted to be a writer and wrote here and there, but wasn't making much progress with his full-time job. So I decided to help him a career around writing. We had an agreement where I would work full-time while he laid the foundation to start, and eventually I would leave my job so we could both work on our own business. Yes, but he blew it. My mom laughed so hard when I told her these details. She said my aunt visited her the other day and screamed, "Why didn't you tell me Ron was a bum?" My mom was confused because as far as she knew, he worked and was quite well off financially. My mom said she had no idea about this. My aunt told my mom that Ron insisted that Lucia take an accelerated course that would get her a better paying job, so she could cover their household expenses. He wanted to execute that plan with Lucia. What she didn't know was that my aunt married him off to Lucia so they could both live off her income. Well, the joke's on them. The last I heard, Lucia was working part-time as a receptionist at a restaurant, making table reservations. I'm not sure they can both live off a receptionist's income. It may sound derogatory to look down on Lucia's profession. Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, I don't care. I would love to see the disappointment and anguish on my aunt's face when the truth about Ron comes to light. There's another layer to this. My aunt was the mistress of Lucia's dad, and when he died, his legal wife kicked them out of the house. That's why my aunt lived with my grandparents. They were living off my grandparents' pension, and sometimes my dad and uncle helped them financially. Lucia has always been a dumb girl. She doesn't like to work, nor is she capable of it. She failed high school twice and finally dropped out. That receptionist job she got was also thanks to my uncle. He recommended her to a friend's restaurant. Nowadays, even a receptionist job requires a high school diploma. If you think poetic justice has been served, it hasn't yet. After I finished mourning, it was time to act. He was still at his job. Together we bought a trust fund that we were going to use later for our business. I had full access to that trust fund because I managed our finances. I was putting money there every month. I would say 20% of the money in that trust fund was his. I liquidated that entire fund when I found out about his infidelity. He has no idea that the fund no longer exists. He's still deluded, thinking he'll get the money from there because he told Lucia that once my anger subsided, he would contact me and get his 50% of the trust fund. Delusional. If you think I'm a scammer, I'm not, because I spent an equivalent amount of money on Ron during his bad days. After Ron quit his full-time job, He struggled a lot to get writing jobs. It was hard for him to make ends meet, so I gave him access to one of my extra accounts where I was keeping some money for his monthly expenses. I supported him with all my means. I think what I did is fair. If we had been married, he would have received alimony. This trust fund was the closest thing because we were almost married. Now I wonder about his future business plans. He has no savings and no job. It's no longer my problem. Update 2. Here's the next update. This Christmas has been lovely. I had the satisfaction of seeing the disappointment on my ex's face. I went back to my mother's house and he came knocking on my door. He was here asking for the money from his trust fund and demanding 50% of it. I told him. What money? He said he had saved money in the trust fund we were going to use for our business. I said, oh, that trust fund. I liquidated it. He went crazy. How could you do that? We had saved that money for our business. Now what are we going to do? I said, allow me. There is no we. You are my cousin's husband and the person you should call we is across the street. He took a deep breath and said, look, I know I hurt you and you have every right to be mad at me, but I need that money from the trust fund. I don't have a job. The client I was writing for dropped me. I'm looking for another client. Lucia doesn't earn enough for both of us. I haven't paid rent for the last 2 months and if I delay another month the landlord has threatened to evict me. Please understand my situation. Why the hell should I understand your cheating ass? Remember what you did to me. I shouted. Cheating doesn't give you the right to take my money. He said, your money? You only own 20% of the trust fund. I told him. Either way I want it back. He said. Do you remember the money I gave you for your monthly expenses? What about that? I took your 20% from the trust fund to recover some of it. I told him. He was quiet and said. I spent that money as your boyfriend so you shouldn't claim it back. With that logic you gave me the trust fund money when you were my boyfriend so you shouldn't ask for it back either. I countered. He threatened to sue me for taking his share. I told him if he did I would also file charges for card theft because he used my debit card to withdraw money for his monthly expenses. I reminded him that if we calculated who owed what he might end up in debt, so he better watch himself and accept the truth. He left angry with a bitter face. If that encounter wasn't enough, my aunt and Lucia showed up at my parents' house looking for me. They were here to ask about the trust fund money. Ron had told them I took his share of the money and now he had nothing and was broke. I told them it was none of their business and I wouldn't discuss my matters with them. Lucia still bothered me to tell her because her future was at stake. I said, this concept is beyond your comprehension, so it's better you stay away from it. My aunt yelled at me for insulting Lucia and said I should lower my ego when talking to her because she's more successful than me because Ron left me for her. My dad came to my room hearing my aunt's voice. My aunt softened when she saw him. She said she was casually talking to me about her anguish. Dad said he heard everything and if she dared raise her voice against me again, he would cut off all financial help he's been giving her. He said he regretted not intervening in my matters earlier because they gave my aunt a free pass to humiliate me, but no more. Dad told her that if Lucia was so successful, then she should help Ron manage the house and save themselves from eviction. Apparently my aunt and Lucia didn't know about Ron's poor financial condition or the overdue rent. They were shocked. Lucia started sobbing in front of my dad, saying Ron had ruined Lucia's life because he couldn't support her. She was worried about where they would live if the landlord really evicted them. She asked to release Ron's part of the trust fund so they could rebuild their life. My dad said he was proud of me for standing up for myself and laughed at my aunt for going behind my back and seducing Ron for Lucia. She should have thought about the consequences before prostituting her daughter. My aunt started crying, saying she did everything to secure her daughter's future. My aunt changes color quickly depending on the situation. She said Lucia doesn't have a father to support her like I do. Nor is she educated like me to earn money herself, so she has to take care of her. She thought Ron was the one who could take care of her daughter. But look, the poor fool betrayed her. Lucia broke down and said I could have told her Ron was unemployed. But I let my cousin marry a bum. But I don't blame you for that. You have your reasons to hide the truth. My dad stood up and asked them to leave. Those who turned their backs on me to seduce my fiancé and then came to my house to rub in my face that their daughter was marrying my fiancé. Now that things are falling apart, she is blaming me for hiding the truth about Ron. Well, before they left I told her, "Don't worry about Lucia. There are plenty of sugar daddies waiting to shower their love on girls like Lucia. I'm sure both of you can find one." That was very bad of me. But I'm not that good a person, by the way, nor do I care to be with them. She was the one who started the humiliation when she came to tell me about her daughter's wedding. I don't know what happened after that. I wish I had recorded her calling Ron a bum. He deserved to know what his mother-in-law and wife think of him. However, if she could call him that in front of us, she might also do it in front of him. Update 3: Ron emailed me admitting how he had ruined things. He had borrowed money from a friend to pay the overdue rent but defaulted again because his client delayed the payment for his writing work. The landlord gave him a notice to vacate the house. He asked my aunt to let them stay there for a few months, but my grandparents refused. Ron didn't know the truth that the house wasn't my aunt's. They lied saying it was her house, and my grandparents lived there when it was the other way around. They're a bunch of liars. Ron mentioned that Lucia also lied about her education and job. She claimed to be a restaurant manager and exaggerated her salary. This led Ron to think they could follow our business plan together. I'm surprised he didn't see Lucia's lack of intelligence on their dates. Did they really talk? Or was it just casual encounters? He mentioned he was giving up his dreams of writing and looking for a job in his previous field. I ignored his first email. A few days later he sent another one, this time apologizing. He expressed regret for betraying me and acknowledged that his life had spiraled downward. He mentioned how my aunt took Lucia to manipulate him. It seems beauty has the advantage, even the brightest minds can fall for it. However, I have no desire to forgive Ron or reconcile with him. He's remorseful now, but he's a cheater. Once a cheater, always a cheater. His life might be a mess partly because I liquidated the trust fund, but I don't regret it. I was fair to myself. He made a choice and now he has to live with it. I replied to his email, telling him never to contact me again, and blocked him. I thought about warning him that my aunt would probably leave him and Lucia once she found a better paying job. But why should I console him? He broke my heart by cheating on me with my cousin. His misery is nothing but gossip for me now. I discussed everything with my mom and we laughed a lot. She said she was satisfied that karma had caught up with everyone. Update 4: Well, life is good, at least much better than when I started writing here. It's been 2 years since everything blew up and there's a big difference between my life and the lives of the other people involved. I don't know where to start because this is a bit long, but I'll try to make it very short, though I don't want to leave out details along the way. To start, I'll talk about myself. It's not because I'm self-centered, but to give a small update for those who asked, and then I'll start with the interesting stuff. I still have my job in Leeds and everything is going very well. I've even met a guy here and we're dating. As for Ron, he got a job and according to some friends he's very miserable. He doesn't stop complaining that he lost his dream job and has to work in something he doesn't like, all because of a witch, which would be me. I could feel offended, but the truth is, I'm very happy about what happens to him. Remember, I'm not a good person. Besides, it's not like he couldn't work for a while, save, and then try again or work at night on what he wants to do while keeping a job during the day to support himself. But it seems he's not that committed to his so-called dream job because he's not willing to make the effort. As for my aunt and my cousin, the most wonderful thing in the world happened. My grandparents kicked them out. They got tired of all the drama and having them live with them, so they asked them to leave. Now they're both renting together because they have nothing else to do since they're both a bit useless. If I were them, I would start looking for a new boyfriend quickly. It's not like Lucia will get younger and prettier over time. And we know that in her case, intelligence isn't something that will improve either. Yes, I know I'm very bad, but that's karma. Well, it didn't end up being as long as I thought it would be, but at least in broad strokes, I think I've told you the most important things.